While there are different theories about how the Nguni people came to settle in what is now KwaZulu-Natal, one thing is clear. By the 1700s, they were already a well-established, thriving group. They shared similar customs, spoke related languages, and followed comparable political structures. But how did this unity and way of life take shape? As the old saying goes, geography is destiny, and that's especially true for this region.
Thought Odyssey presents King Shaka, Secrets of a Master Politician and Military Genius. A man often remembered as a fierce warrior who built an empire through sheer might, but his real genius, hidden in his political strategies and unifying tactics. In just over a decade, he turned a small kingdom into a formidable force. How did he outmaneuver rivals, keep rebellions at bay, and raise his people's standards of living? Discover the untold story in King Shaka, Secrets of a Master Politician and Military Genius.
The climate in KwaZulu-Natal is mild and fertile. It allowed people to grow crops like sorghum, millet, and pumpkins with relative ease. The land was productive, and the seasons were kind enough to support steady agriculture. Cattle, which were central to both the economy and culture, could also survive well here. The weather supported rich grasslands and steady water supplies, meaning herds could graze, reproduce, and grow, making them valuable symbols of wealth, status, and spirituality. Rivers were more than just water sources. Yes, they were essential for drinking, farming, and fishing, but they also acted as natural borders between clans. They defined territories, shaped movement, and held spiritual meaning in the worldview of the people. Then, there were the mountains, especially the mighty Drakensberg. These towering ranges acted like protective walls. They offered shelter, separation, and a sense of sacredness. Some places in the mountains were seen as homes to ancestors or as sacred sites where important rituals were held. Back then, the region wasn't governed by a single ruler or centralized state. People lived in clans, each led by a chief, or Inkosi. These chiefs came from royal families, Amakosi, and leadership usually passed from father to son. A clan included the royal family and all those who pledged loyalty to them. In return, the Inkosi provided protection, settled disputes, and kept order in society. Interestingly, the social and political order that existed was, in many ways, shaped by the geography of the land. The natural features helped define how people lived, where they moved, and how power was shared. But geography could also bring disruption. The same rivers that gave life could flood. The same fertile lands could suffer drought. When the rains didn't come, or crops failed, or herds died, everything could change. Droughts, floods, and failed harvests didn't just threaten food, they threatened the very structure of society. Families might be forced to move. Chiefs could lose followers. Hunger could spark conflict between clans. In short, nature could shake the foundations of order and replace it with uncertainty, migration, and even violence. To truly understand the dynamics of power and instability in pre-colonial KwaZulu-Natal, we must consider the impact of ecological disasters, especially repeated crop failures or diseases that wiped out livestock. For a chief, or Inkosi, power did not come from force alone. It rested on three intertwined pillars: lineage, numbers, and spiritual legitimacy. Lineage gave him inherited authority. An Inkosi was born into a royal bloodline, tracing his ancestry through generations of leadership. This gave him a natural claim to the chieftaincy. Numbers gave him strength. The more people who lived under his rule and paid him tribute, the more powerful he became, not just socially, but militarily. With numbers came the ability to defend territory, enforce justice, and, if needed, wage war. But perhaps most critically, He served as the spiritual heart of the clan. The Nkosi was seen as a bridge between the living and the ancestors. If the rains came, if the herds grew, and if the harvest was bountiful, it was often taken as a sign that the ancestors favored him. This spiritual aura made him revered, and therefore obeyed. But nature could also turn against him. Droughts, plagues, and floods were not seen as random misfortunes. They were interpreted as signs that the ancestors had withdrawn their blessing. When this happened, the Nkosi's authority came into question. His position, once secure, could suddenly appear fragile. He became vulnerable to internal rivals, whispers of discontent, and even succession disputes from within his own lineage. The material consequences were just as severe. Famine set in. People died or scattered in search of survival. As homesteads emptied, the Nkosi's power base crumbled. Prestige faded with every family that walked away. And those who left did not always go quietly. In desperate times, some resorted to raiding neighboring clans. These acts weren't just opportunistic. They were survival-driven. They sparked cycles of retaliation, escalating into full-scale conflicts. In the worst cases, oral histories speak of cannibalism, extreme acts carried out in times of unbearable hunger and chaos. This challenges the myth of a tranquil past. Far from being a land of peace before Shaka, KwaZulu-Natal was a region simmering with crisis, mobility, and conflict. So when Shaka was born, although he was part of a royal household and technically born into privilege, the world around him was anything but stable. He entered a landscape of shifting loyalties, wounded power structures, and a population in motion, hungry, restless, and armed. This unstable backdrop would shape the kind of leader he would eventually become.